Hi, my name is Brooke and I'm with MeatRx, and today we're going to talk to Sandra about her successful journey, the carnivore diet, and what brought her to carnivore. And this is where she's willing to share her success story for other people. And thanks, Sandra, again.
Oh, thank you, Brooke.
Thanks.
I'm happy to be doing this.
Great. Well, let's just get started. I'm really curious. What was life like for you before carnivore, and what brought you to the carnivore diet?
Life before carnivore for me was kind of, I think what I hear a lot of people say, which is, what is nutrition? And trying to figure that out. I one time listed every single diet that I've ever done. And I was just amazed by the successes of some. Actually, I was. I mean, there was always the goal of losing weight or just that outer appearance type of thing. And this has been like my whole life. So it's a big, long journey to kind of figuring out not only the way to eat, what brings you to something like this, but also the why. And I'm happy to say that the carnivore diet actually really kind of helped me figure that out. So I kind of have had that journey for quite some time. And I found out about all of the MeatRx and about, carnivore through Joe Rogan and listening to interviews. And I was just like, wait, just meat? Like, wait, how does that work? And that's crazy. Just everything that I'm sure everybody's written about came to mind. And it's like, I can't do that. And I thought about it and I'm like, well, but wait a minute, maybe there's something to it. So I tried it, and it was hard. It was hard to believe that this was something you could do. And I started slowly. I started just introducing more red meat into my diet. I started with lamb. For personal reasons, I don't eat a lot of beef, but when I do, I eat a ribeye and I love it, but I just tend to go towards the lamb. So I started doing that and having kale with it, and sometimes sweet potato. I still wasn't telling people in my life that I was doing it. So, every now and again I would go to dinner with friends and I would just have meat and they're like, oh, you don't want this? I'm like, no, I just don't feel like I'm in the mood for it, that type of thing, not really owning it. So I think the first time I tried it after I heard the podcast, I couldn't believe how good I felt. And I kind of wanted to dismiss it, saying, oh, it's maybe because it's elimination type of diet and I'm not eating all these other things and it's helping in that way. So I kind of yo-yoed again. I saw great success and then I was like, well, but that doesn't seem right. And then I still played with it. And this kind of started like in 2018. And then in 2019, I did one of the challenges. And again, I saw and felt really good about things. And I'm really happy to say I don't have any health issues. I don't suffer from any of the things that I see a lot of people suffering from. For me, this was more about getting my head around how to be happy with how I feel about what I eat, and seeing how that was making a change, not just physically, but to my mental landscape. And I think that's when I started going, do I really need to care about what people think about, or do I need to care about how I feel and what that is doing to my overall? So when this year's challenge came about, I thought, I'm going to try to approach this differently. I'm going to try to approach it by telling everybody. And I'm also going to invest in getting a coach. So I went to meatrx.com and I got a coach. And that really made a big difference because I could talk the crazy talk that I was having in my head with somebody who was successful at the diet. And that was really, really helpful. And it helped me have that, okay, how do I approach people? How do I talk to people? How do I really own this and make it my life? And it's been different. Everything's been different. And again, the biggest thing that I've been working on is how to change my mental landscape, my emotional landscape, and let the body kind of like adapt to things. And it's just different. I mean, I cannot believe just how different I feel by just eating meat and how satisfied I feel. Um, and that's just wonderful. And I don't have the, constipations that people talk about. I don't have any. The only time I ever experience any of those things is when I reintroduce like sugars or things like that. And I have those because I go see my nieces and nephews and we have a party and I'm like, oh, I got to have a little bit of cake, that kind of thing. But other than that, it's been a wonderful experience. I don't feel crazy about talking about it anymore, obviously, because I'm willing to do the interview with you. But I think, for those type of people that actually don't have issues, they're just looking for ways of balancing more their energies and their overall health by including all those things, like I said, your physical, mental, and spiritual. It's a really nice experience, and it has been a really great experience for me.
How do you feel physically with it?
Physically, I feel great. I'm able to do things. I just had my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm able to still do things that I keep pushing my body towards. Like I keep giving myself 21-day challenges to stick through and to kind of go through. And I'm not seeing any type of decline in that. I'm not seeing pains that I used to see when I was really kind of doing more carb loading type of things. And I was working with trainers and doing things like, and there was always this, okay, work out, now go have your carbohydrates and go do all this. And I remember the goal was to lose weight and look trim for the summer. And I would go, the scale's going up. And they're like, well, that's because you're building muscle, or fat. And I'm like, okay, well then I need to be used as an example of the greatest person ever because I'm gaining so much weight. And if that's muscle, then I'm an incredible individual. And it's like, there's no way in 2 weeks I gained that much muscle. It's just not possible. So I knew something wasn't right. And I think the biggest discomfort I've ever and always felt that I feel with carb loading or carbohydrates is the bloating effect. And that's just really uncomfortable. It's a midsection bloat, and there's only one way of getting rid of that feeling, and it's embarrassing, right? Like I don't want to be gassy my whole life. And this is one of the things I don't feel that. Like I don't go through that ever anymore, So it's been great.
So did you notice when you were eating more meat, but still including some plant foods, the bloating or indigestion or just a different kind of comfort level after those meals?
I did. I really did. Sometimes with kale, I noticed, because I was primarily either doing kale, sweet potatoes, and cauliflower. And just keeping it very clean like that, still using like good high fat butters and things like that. But I think what I noticed was just that there was always a slight little bloat, not as long as like if I would have had mashed potatoes, for example. But, I would have something where it wasn't always right. And I thought, oh, well, you could get a bad batch of kale or this type of thing. I just found the irregularity around, bowel movements as well. That was kind of the big thing, but nothing that was monumental to talk about, but the bloating, yes. And also, I think the biggest thing is that I've been one of those type of people that can tell really quickly when I eat something, my body will immediately kind of start to swell a little bit. Like my joints will feel really tight. And I think that's one of the other things that I've noticed is that I have more flexibility than I ever have. I know I'm working towards that, but I'm able to get into positions a lot easier than I used to. And that shouldn't be the case, air quotes, as you get older. But I've been noticing that I have been able to do that.
So inflammation would be pretty immediate when you would be taking on other foods,
Yes.
other than animal foods. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think bloating and weight gain can sometimes it's just inflammation, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like you kind of went pretty gradual, going to kind of paleo keto approach into as you journeyed to carnivore.
Yep.
And then it sounds like you've kind of said goodbye to plants, more or less. Now,
Yes.
kind of.
Yeah, they try to appear on the plate, and I'm like, no, that's not. I don't want that. Yeah. So I get the looks now, and I don't really care anymore. I'm like, if you want to go run, let's go for a run, and I'll beat you. So it's like, okay, And the great thing about it too, as I was working with the coach, is I had two, at age 50, you have to go get your colonoscopy, and you have to do all your breast exams, or redo your breast exams. And one of the things with my colonoscopy, when the doctor was interviewing me, he was like, well, you sound pretty healthy. Why are you here? And I'm like, well, because you guys are making me be here. But he goes, okay, well, let's see if you're as healthy in the inside as you are in the outside. And that was really great. Like when he came back, he goes, no, you're totally fine. You don't have to come back for 10 years. And I think that was one of those big high moments, was like, okay, that is actually proof, and they give you a picture of the colon. I was like, oh, look, it's all great. And so knowing that I checked out fine, my breast exam was exact same thing. There was a moment where they had noticed something and they wanted to go back, and we did a biopsy. And there was a question in my mind, like, okay, I should stop the diet. And then I said, nope, this is my commitment. If I have anything, I'm going to go full force with staying the course. And it was still scary, but that's what I did. And I chose to do that. And when everything came out positive and I was fine, it was one of those, okay, this is what I'm doing. There's no proof that anything's wrong here.
And you had been on the diet for 6 months or a year by then?
Yes, off and on, yes. And then I really started 2020. I've been on it. I've had a couple of, like I said, parties here and there, but pretty much.
Yeah. So what do you eat now mostly?
I eat a lot of lamb. I do a lot of eggs and chorizo. That's kind of a favorite. I do every now and again cheese. Occasionally, I will have a protein drink because I'm in between meetings and calls and all of that. And it's uncomfortable, but it gets me through the day. But what I've noticed in this last 21-day round challenge that I've been doing for myself, if I just stick to the eggs, meat, I'm fine. I can go hours at a time without eating. Even my brain feels very cognitive. I'm able to hear myself speak very clearly on meetings and calls. I don't hear, any reviews from my managers or my executives telling me that they didn't understand something. And I feel like I'm producing more. So that's really great. Like I can see that, I can feel that. I don't have any of that brain fog that I used to have, where I would walk into rooms and I'm like, why am I here? And that started to scare me because, my mom had Parkinson's before she passed. So there's always that little bit of, does that run in the family type of thing. So those are the type of things that I look for, like how is my brain functioning? How am I communicating? And how am I holding my emotional state? Those are the things that I do as checkpoints. So I know that was a little steer away from what I'm eating, but I do ribeyes on occasion. I usually probably have them, I'd say within a month, I'll have like 4 ribeyes, maybe 5 here and there. For me, it's more, I live in an apartment in San Francisco. So for me, it's more about, I like to barbecue, and that's not really an option I have here in the city. So it's only when I travel to my partner's house that I can go and barbecue. So that's kind of why I have a limitation there.
Do you have a air fryer?
I do not.
No. Those are pretty handy.
I hear about it.
Yeah.
My coach kind of mentioned it too. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll give it a try.
So lamb, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Fatty lamb. So what are, do you concern yourself with those with fat, low fat, high fat, fatty meats or lean meats, or have you figured that out of what best works for you?
No, I love the lamb. I love the fattiness of the lamb.
Yeah.
I think it's just a delicious meat. I don't concern myself around that anymore.
Yeah.
And when I have the ribeyes, I think I never was a ribeye fan. I used to be more of a sirloin or, even a T-bone, but I think it's because I was cooking it wrong. And I kind of recently learned actually red is really good and it's just delicious. And I was like, the first time I cooked it and I was like, I think that might be a little too red for me. And then I started eating and I was like, oh my God.
That's the trick.
And I'm like, this is amazing. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my God. And when I was getting to the end, I'm like, no, I have to start all over here. It was just delicious. Yeah.
Good. Although lamb is great. The lamb, the fattiness of lamb is really special. It has a really unctuous quality.
Yes.
Really nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like you implemented it pretty well, and you didn't. Oh, you mentioned the social aspects. They are challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend, or I still have a friend, and she went through a health scare too with breast cancer and this and that. And she went the complete opposite direction. She went vegan and, she's a great friend. I love her to death. And we were just really kind of like, we are right now on polar opposites. But we both still support each other. She isn't trying to get me to come over to her and I'm not getting her to try to come over here. Cause I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned and acknowledged is I don't think there's one right way of eating for everybody. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that it would be that way because we're all so different. So, my aim is not to convince my neighbor to start eating the way I do. And I don't want to be convinced of anything. This has been a really big journey for me. And I'm really happy that, Sean has been brave enough to do what he's doing and to create this format. And, I don't know the man, but I love him to pieces. And we share almost the exact same, we share the same birth year. So that's always nice. And I think his courageousness has been very exciting, but I'm not, ready to deflame anybody because it's not really what this has been for me. It's really been about owning all of my journey around this really feels good for me and sharing that. That's it. That's just,
Yeah, and we all have different time schedules of when things come around for us.
Yeah, exactly.
For whatever the reason. I mean, it's just a mystery sometimes.
Yeah.
Those reasons. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know that digestion and bloating and inflammation, it sounds like are on your list, and also a kind of cognitive equilibrium, it sounds like. And what do you think about your emotional set point? How has that affected you?
It's been really interesting. I always associated, and I'm sure other people have associated meat, especially red meat, with anger. And I come from a family where I learned about anger, and I have 3 older brothers, and my father was very male machismo. So I learned about it. I would tell people that I have a master's in anger and how to actually be angry. And, so this last, I would say, since 2011 has been a journey of how to manage that and to really kind of find different ways of looking at what that is. I remember way back when I didn't even know that there were other emotions besides anger. Somebody kept asking me, well, what do you feel? And I go, well, I'm angry. And but what do you feel? I'm like, well, I'm mad. Like, well, what do you feel? And I'm like, okay, now you're just pissing me off because I've already shared with you, right? So I didn't know there were other things underneath that whole thing. So there's been that journey of kind of really looking at that. And I think because I'm not constantly going up, spiking on my insulin and all of that, that I have more stability with kind of going, something's not right. okay, I'm feeling anger, but what am I really feeling? So I do have moments of pause. So it's been a lot of internal work. Um, but I think that the not also the hormonal change was like sugars and all of what goes on nutritionally with our diets that affect our emotional state. They're not as loud, and
Yeah.
I do think that that's what's happening, is that it's all kind of coming together. Like, I'm satisfied for many hours, so I'm not worried about feeling this scarcity around, oh, I need to eat something, I need to get, that kind of energy, which allows me to have freedom to control what's going on. I'm nowhere near perfect. I still kind of, for unreasonable reasons, lash out and go, oh my God, that wasn't necessary. But I'm a lot better.
That's a great way to describe it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, patience. It almost sounds like ability to be more patient.
Yeah. Yeah.
For yourself as well as with others.
Yes. Yes.
That's great about anger. Yeah, I think I'm less angry now than I've ever been. I'm eating meat. That's great.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's working for you, and do you have any advice for someone who's just starting out?
I think if they're nervous, I think the coaching or the coaches that are available, I think are really helpful. It was nice working with the coach and not feeling pressured to do anything. It was just for me, I mean, my experience around it was really just somebody to talk to who understood the diet and understood some of the things you may come up against. Even for some reason, there was just a similarity in families. The family dynamics that we both shared were kind of similar. And that really helped to kind of hear like, oh, okay, And I think also just knowing you can just talk about it, like having that person you can soundboard things with. And, and it's the most affordable. I've never seen a coaching offer that was so affordable that I was just like, wait, am I reading that right? Is the
it's true. In
the right place? Yes, I'll take 3, please. Yeah. So that was made it really helpful. And it's something I wanted to continue, but then this whole COVID thing happened and I just haven't got back into that frame of mind thinking. And I've been really focused on these 21-day spurts of things that I'm doing. I think that, and I think, that's one thing. I think learning the meal preparations or how to cook meats is really smart. Like I said, I kind of learned by accident. I think going to restaurants that actually serve meat, like steakhouses, is a good way to kind of probably get started. I know it's a little expensive, but I think that splurge every now and again is kind of helps you know that something can taste so good. And I think, I grew up where my mom loved, her meat had to be crispy, crispy, crispy. And my dad was like, no, it's ruined it, So I know that taste, and I grew up with that leathery type of taste. And it never bothered me because we would put salsa on things and all kinds of other things. So it always was great. But, just trying something different sometimes makes it good too.
Yeah, mix it up.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. And you live in the town of restaurants.
Yes, and we cannot go to right now, but yes.
Yes. That's awesome. Are you, you said you're a runner. Is that right?
I'm not a runner per se. I'm actually more of a sprinter, but I'm teaching myself to run again. So I've been doing, just going out and doing 1 mile right now, and then every 21 days I'll add a mile till I get up to 5 miles.
And so you're calling yourself not a runner but a sprinter because of the certain length of distance?
No, my body type and the way that I like to run is really fast, and so I don't really, distance is like not my thing. I'm not that long, lengthy person that can just like go for hours. It's like, it's an effort to kind of.
Well, you're that burst of power person.
Yes, yes, yes. Do that last 100, meters, whatever. Okay, I'm there for you.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a success story and it's inspirational.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think one thing I did want to add that I have actually been tracking, I, for some reason, developed some kind of like little rashes on my legs. And I thought maybe it was like poison oak or something like that, where it was just constantly itchy and this and that. And this last challenge, I really started watching it when I was being really strict. Okay, I'm like, I'm going to watch it, get it, really look at it. And I have to say they actually have nearly, I don't even think I usually used to be scratching all the time. And right now when I was talking to you, I realized that isn't there anymore. And it's kind of one of those things I was watching very closely and then it just, I guess, went away because I haven't been scratching. And I don't know what they were.
So you had that before you were doing carnivore?
Yes. Yes.
Uh-huh. And you didn't know what it was and it slowly has gone away.
Yeah. Yep. And there's no scarring or anything. That's why I wasn't sure what it was. And I have a dog and I take her in the hills and we run and stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I picked up some poison oak and I don't know about it. But, I put creams on it and nothing really kind of solved it. And then, being very strict and just kind of keeping this course, it's kind of just gone away.
Cool. It's another one of those things that we'll never know, actually, when we change our diet and maybe we've averted things that we didn't even know was going on that we were creating.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think that's a really big point, is that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all discovery. So I think that's the biggest thing when I talk to friends and they're like, oh, but you need to this. And I go, but do you really know? Because we just haven't done that study. And I don't know how you would do that study. So I'm like, I'm happy to entertain whatever you want to do. And I'm just going to do this. And if it ever becomes problematic, I'll stop. But right now, I don't see any reason to stop.
Do you drink coffee?
I do. Yeah. And I do put a little bit of half and half in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
can't live in San Francisco and not drink coffee.
Well, everything sounds really good, Sandra.
No, thank you.
And I love this, the idea that you're a sprinter with the burst of energy. That's awesome. And you're just gonna expand that burst of energy to a little bit more length of time. So you'll be like a long distance speed demon runner. That's cool. Well, thanks again.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, I hope I meet you soon since we live so close.
Yeah, it's nice to know I have a neighbor in the know.
in the carniverse.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, we'll sign off. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.